Live from the Zoom studios, the 17 and Me Show, starring Ambassador Jeff Rivero, inviting you to join our special guest,
Chef Mick from UC Merced.
And here we go!
Welcome to the 17 and Me Show, the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals show. Our special guest on tonight's show is Chef Matthew Perez from UC Merced. Speaking of chefs, what is a chef's least favorite Disney movie? Frozen. What is a potato's least favorite day of the week? Fridays. I had a hard time this week. I went out to one of our local eateries. I ordered a pizza. About 30 minutes later, I asked the chef, "Hey, is my pizza going to be long?" He said, "No, sir. It's going to be round." I had thought about ordering a steak, and I asked the chef, does anyone order steaks raw? He said, "Yes, but that's rare." Wow, that's the last time I leave the door open for all you guys. And finally, before I left, the chef comes running out. I said, "Is everything okay?" He said, "Yes, I'm late for my plane trip. I'm going to Las Vegas." I said, "Really? You're going to Las Vegas tonight?" He said, "Yes, I am." I said, "Sir, make sure you don't whisk it all." All right, we're going to have a really great show tonight. We have Chef Matthew Perez going to be out in just a moment. But first, here's a commercial break from our sponsors, the United Nations 17 SDGs.
We can be.
We must be the first generation
to end extreme poverty.
The generation
Most determined
to fight injustice
and inequalities.
The generation that saves the planet from climate change.
And this is how it will get done.
The global goals.
A 15-year plan
For everyone. Everywhere.
With no one left behind.
We will live in a world
where nobody
anywhere
lives in extreme poverty.
Where no one
goes hungry.
Where no one wakes in the morning
Asking if there will be food today.
We will live in a world
where no child has to die.
Diseases we know how to cure. And where proper health care
is a lifelong right for us all.
We will live in a world
Where everyone
goes to school. And education gives us the knowledge
and skills
For a fulfilling life. We will live in a world where all girls and all women have equal opportunities
to thrive
and be powerful
and safe.
We cannot succeed if half the world is held back.
we will live in a world
where all people can get clean water
And proper toilets at home,
at school
and a block.
We will live in a world where there's sustainable energy for everyone.
Heat, light, and power for the whole planet.
Without destroying the planet.
We will live in a world where economies prosper.
and new wealth.
leads to decent jobs
For everyone.
and we will live in a world where our industry
Our infrastructure and our
Best innovations
Are not just used to make money, but to make all our lives better.
we will live in a world
Where prejudices and extremes of inequality
are defeated.
inside our countries
And between different countries.
where people live in cities and communities
that are safe, progressive,
And support everyone who lives there.
where we replace
What we consume.
Planet where we put back what we take out of the earth.
We live in a world that is decisively rolling back the threat of climate
change.
where we restore and protect the life in our oceans and seas.
will restore and protect
life on land.
The forests,
Animals.
The earth itself.
With peace between and inside countries.
where all governments are open.
And answer to us for what they do at home and abroad.
and the justice rules.
With everyone equal before the law.
Where all countries and we their people.
work together.
Partnerships of all kinds.
To make these goals a reality. These are the United Nations global goals
For sustainable development.
Let's get to work.
And we're back to the 17 and Me show. Let me introduce our guest tonight, Chef Matthew Perez from UC Merced. Chef Matthew, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Jeff. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate the invite. Appreciate you including me. Hello, everybody.
I know you really enjoy being a chef. Would you mind telling us what some of the roles and responsibilities are behind the job at UC Merced?
Sure. So, as a chef here at UC Merced, as one of the chefs here at UC Merced, I mean, our job description is quite extensive, but just some of the responsibilities that that I do assist with are menu development. There's a whole process, which includes research and development, um, recipe testing, refining of recipes. You have proper food handling and storage procedures that we have to maintain, and make sure that every culinary team member is adhering to those standards and policies. Um, Also help in overseeing kitchen staff by providing assignments to the culinary team and ensuring all kitchen standards are met or exceeded. Um, but that's just a vague overview of what we do here. Um, our main focus is always the customer, our student base, our student population, just making sure that they're happy and well fed.
Chef Matthew, would you mind telling our viewers when you discovered your passion for food?
I like to eat. Um, I was on the bigger side when I was a very young boy, so I discovered my passion for food very, very early. I recall one of the first times I got it. Really, I enamored with cooking. I used to, I grew up, with my grandmother cooking in the kitchen. Would always see my dad cooking in the kitchen. My mom, my stepdad. Um, so I'm like, oh, I love food. So I guess that's how I can eat is, if I cook it, start cooking it. So, and I recall one of the meals that I first attempted to cook on my own. I wanted to make my mom breakfast. I made her the typical breakfast, eggs, potatoes, bacon, probably. Um, and I had it set in my mind that I wanted to make her hash browns. So, so I'm grating the potatoes and, I added oil to my pan and I, tossed in the grated potatoes, and flavor wise, everything was good. At least that's the feedback I got. Of course, my mom wasn't going to be mean and tell me it wasn't good, but I would like to think it was good nonetheless. Um, but the look of them, they were gray. Apparently, I forgot, to rinse the potatoes, and rinse off all that starch. So, lesson learned. Um, that being said, I think my passion for food continues to grow each and every single day. I mean, just getting in the kitchen and being able to get creative and be adaptive um, brings a lot of joy, and that really fuels my passion, because when you get in the kitchen and you can create something, whether you have a recipe or not, if you're following a recipe and you don't have everything on that recipe, that's part of where that adaptive cooking comes in. It's like, and you get that, through years and years of just being in the kitchen and, making mistakes. Don't ever be afraid to make a mistake. You might end up with something spectacular. But yeah, I mean, so just being in there, getting creative, being adaptive, um, and hopefully, producing something tasty. That really fuels the fire.
Can you tell our viewers when you became interested in food rescue and food repurposing?
Yeah, good question. So growing up, food waste wasn't something that I often seen. I mean, all groceries that were purchased for the household served a purpose. That was to feed us, to give us, the proper nutrients. Wasting food was the same as wasting, hard-earned money. Uh, and back then, growing up, money was pretty hard to come by, for my parents, my grandparents, um, and then, even when I was older and I started working in professional kitchens, mom and pop shops, specifically, utilizing every bit of what was purchased was paramount to your business. I mean, if you were wasting anything that you bought. I mean, that's money lost. I mean, that's revenue. That's your profit. That's, maybe that was how you were paying your employees. I mean, so I mean, you really had to be cognizant. I've learned about what you do with your food. How much, if you're in a business, how much you're throwing away and throwing out the window. Just throwing throwing in the garbage. And fast forward to when I started working here at UC Merced, where the volume is hundreds times greater. And with that, with that more, or with that increase in volume, comes more possibility of food waste. I mean, whether it be from vegetable trimmings, meat trimmings, you name it. But with all this added waste also comes more opportunity to get creative. I think one of the things that I noticed that they were doing here when I first started was the ends of tomatoes were, when they were sliced for burgers or sandwiches, the ends, would be deemed inserviceable. So you would, they were saving them, just collecting them, and then that's how, they would roast them off and make their salsa. And I was like, hey, that's pretty cool, great idea. So I think, looking back on my career, like everything I had encountered as a child, growing up in the kitchen and, watching my parents or grandparents cook, and seeing how, they treated the food with respect and not just, treated it like it was, it's no big deal. No, I mean, I think that led to my passion. And just being able to get creative with something that wasn't hardly used or maybe ever. I remember a collab I did with, I think it was health promotion here on campus. They wanted me to do something centered around food waste. So I did a video with them and I made a banana peel curry. Who knew you could eat banana peels, right? So we did the video. I made the dish. We tasted it. It was pretty darn good. So that's part of where that creativity keeps that fire going, and it also just continues to fuel your passion. I mean, when you can produce something like that, and I don't know, for me, I just feel good about not seeing that banana peel go to the landfill. I feel good about that. And then when you increase that, how many people are there in the world? 7 billion people. If we can all do one act like that, maybe daily, weekly. I mean, just think of how much food we can save from going to the landfill. I mean, how many carbon emissions are we preventing from going up into the atmosphere? So that's what gives me passion. That's what keeps me wanting to do more. Yeah, that's it in a nutshell, I guess.
We'll be right back from this commercial break from UC Merced.
You want to know what makes UC Merced really stand out? Here at UC Merced, we're a tight-knit community. A community for people from all walks of life.
With over 200 organizations on this campus, you're bound to find one that you like. Knights of Omega Delta Phi, 1987.
At UC Merced, opportunities to study, research, and step out of your comfort zone are growing every day. Our faculty members are so innovative and energetic. No matter what you study, our environment will keep you motivated.
You can find inspiration here.
Or out here.
UC Merced has been partnered with the 70 since before our campus opened. And each year, our collaboration with the park grows even stronger.
Merced may be a small community, but there's still plenty to do.
So yes, we may be the newest UC,
but here at UC Merced, we are pioneers.
We are trailblazers.
World-class creators.
We are building the future. Our future. In the heart of California!
And it all starts here at UC Merced.
I'm back with Chef Matthew Perez from UC Merced. Chef Matthew, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, is there one that you have the most passion for? And can you explain what your reason is behind the passion for that goal?
This was really tough for me because I think I have passion for many of these SDG for the SDGs that are listed. I think many of these goals are interrelated. And I mean, without question, I'm passionate about, there being zero hunger. The people that are, less fortunate and they're going without, or, they have no idea where their next meal is going to come from. I view them as my cousins. I view them as my uncles, my aunts, my grandparents, my parents, my brothers, my sisters. I view them as me. Because at one point I had been in a situation where I didn't know where my next meal was going to come from. So I can relate. I also see that tied into good health and well-being. I mean, ending world hunger isn't just about giving people highly refined, highly processed, full of sugar food items, right? Just to say, oh, you have something to eat. To me, that's not good enough. If we're going to feed people, let's feed them like we care, because we actually do. And to me, this ties into quality education. So many times before, I've seen it firsthand where, we'll get something in, or we'll have the opportunity to get something in or bring something into the kitchen where, a lot of our culinary team members haven't had an opportunity to experience before. So that's part of the quality education for me. So it's like, I feel like, if we're going to educate people, let's start educating them about food. I mean, let's educate them about, guava or, kiwi. I mean, not everybody has eaten it before. So, and you can fill in the blank with any food that you would like to, but let's start teaching them about what it is, what it tastes like, maybe where it comes from, how it's grown. Let's start teaching them about the labor involved or the transportation costs, or, that's really, I think, where we need to focus on, because when you start adding all that up, that's where, when you maybe put it on a graph, or, put it in Excel, or, something like that. Well, it costs, X amount for fuel to transport it from, this country, where you can get it locally, and you're reducing those food miles. And that, that's where, I'm probably going off on a tangent, but I mean, it all has everything to do with everything. We teach people about food. We teach them what it tastes like. We teach them how to prep it. We teach them how to season it. Definitely teach them how to cook it. The flip side of that is, teach them about where it comes from, what it takes to produce it, what it means, what it actually means, not just monetarily to waste something. I mean, because I know I can go buy a, sack of onions for, $5 at, a big supermarket, right? Wholesaler. And if I waste those onions, they cost me $5. But I mean, what is the real cost of that? When you look into transportation costs, when you look into fuel costs, what's the impact on our environment? How much water does it take to produce one onion? I mean, these are numbers that people may not even think about. So part of how we tackle that and I think it's maybe a lack of appreciation for food, or maybe it's just not knowing what it takes to grow a strawberry, or how many resources go into growing potatoes. So I think if we could start, including that in our quality education, I think we could start seeing our food waste go down. I mean, I think that, you do some research, right? You look back 40s, 50s, they had it right. And all of a sudden we morphed into this society where it's okay to waste. How is it okay to waste? To me, it doesn't make any sense. We're wasting all this perfectly edible food, right? Getting plowed over, which I know that's part of the process, but we have all these people that are going hungry, but yet we have all this food going to the landfill. Something's broke. And I think, my hat's off to you for, putting this together. I think the more people that can come to the dinner table to discuss things like this, maybe we can actually do something good. Maybe we can start taking more steps in the right direction. So that's why it's really hard for me to pick one SDG. I think that they're all related. Part of that education would also be, how do I store it? How do I prolong the shelf life naturally? There's so many things you could do. I mean, you got some fresh peaches. Let's show you how to can them. Let's show you how to preserve them. Abundance of lemons. Let's make preserved lemons. There's so many things out there that you could do. And this is just showing you how to get the most bang for your buck, right? And that's the money you spent. But when we start talking about, like I just alluded to a minute ago, when we start talking about the environment and the impact that food waste has, we need to start reducing our carbon footprint, our carbon footprint. Maybe that's shopping more sustainably. Maybe it's shopping more locally. Go hit up your little farmer's market. Go hit up your fruit stand on your way home. You're going to get great deals. You're going to save some money, and you're going to help those people make a living. It's a win-win-win all the way across the board. I'll tell you what, on the way home, I stopped one day and I bought some strawberries. Jeff, I'll tell you, I hadn't had a strawberry like that in probably 15 years, 20 years. That was the best orange strawberry I ever had. Why? It's grown right there. Right next to the fruit stand, they grew the strawberries. Yeah, so I'm getting it from the source. It was great. I'll have to show you. So the bottom line message is we need to stop sending waste. We need to stop sending food waste to landfills. I mean, and we need to determine, is it really food waste? I mean, is it still perfectly edible? If it is, then it shouldn't be waste. So that ties into climate action, right? That's part of the climate change. I mean, look what we're facing now. So when you start saving food, you start saving the environment, you start saving all those valuable resources that go into producing potatoes, onions, squash, whatever you have. I mean, it all takes water. It all takes fuel to ship, right? Diesel fuel, fossil fuel. It all comes at a cost. When we start wasting it, we keep wasting it, we're doomed.
Well, our time is really flying by, but I have to ask, do you have any words of encouragement or advice you'd like to give to our viewers? We're all going through a pretty rough time right now, and we'd love to hear something inspirational from you, Chef Matthew.
Words of encouragement. Well, I think we could all use some encouraging words, now and, every day. I mean, this past year has been exceedingly tough for many on a personal level, and also globally. I mean, just the fallout from everything that's occurred, really kind of just it's really hard for me to put into words. I mean, because I've gone through some things personally unrelated to COVID, and the things that I've gone through and that I've experienced this past year just really has taught me to remember to be thankful every single day for the blessings that still remain, to be appreciative of what you do have, and not take anything or anyone for granted. And it's also reminding me that, we have to persevere. So whatever anybody out there is going through, we can rise above. We have to remember to persevere regardless of what life throws at us. One of the ways that I've been able to do that is I've actually taken some time to invest in my personal growth, to invest in my self-care. And I've done that by, just kind of implementing these two things is, number one, not to take anything personally. Number two, don't make any assumptions. And also don't be afraid to allow yourself to be vulnerable because of any mistakes you've made in the past. I've found that, in our vulnerabilities is where we find our greatest strength. And always remember to love one another and care for one another, because we're all one. I mean, and I think once we start acting like that, the world will be in a much better place. We never know what type of storm someone is going through. So we need to practice more human kindness. And why wouldn't we? I mean, being kind is free. I mean, it doesn't cost you a dime. It doesn't cost you a cent. Just remember to love one another and care for one another, because we are brothers and sisters. We are related.
Thank you, Chef Matthew, for being on our show tonight. We really appreciate you taking the time to spend with us and to give us so many words of wisdom.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate, you having me on. I look forward to the many, many wonderful things that we're going to work on in the future.
If you would like to teach the 17 SDGs in your classroom, or you'd like to learn more, please go to teachsdgs.org. Thank you for viewing our episode tonight, and I look forward to seeing you in the future. Have a great night.